Last year, the questionable stock market actions of former senators, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, led to at least a bit of national conversation about whether it makes sense for elected politicians to be able to own and trade individual stocks. But as of now, nothing has actually been done to stop that. That said, some politicians are working on a potential fix to the solution. And joining us now to discuss, Deputy Washington Bureau Chief for Insider, Dave Levinthal.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to have you back on, particularly about this topic, because you've got a recent report on Insider about Representative Pramila Jayapal and her recent effort to do something about this stock situation. So what is she planning?
Well, she, along with Senator Elizabeth Warren, both have proposed dueling pieces of legislation that would effectively say no more. If you're a member of the House, if you're a member of the Senate, and you want to buy and sell individual stocks, individual stock shares, you would be prohibited from doing so going forward. So this has been something that has been tried many times over the past many years, most notably about a decade ago when the Stock Act, a bill that touched on stocks but ultimately was watered down to a great degree, tried to prohibit it, failed. And there have been individual bills that Elizabeth Warren has put forward to try to do the same thing, also have failed. What's different this time around, of course, is that the Democrats control both the House and the Senate. Elizabeth Warren, for her part, sits on the Senate Finance Committee. So at the minimum, there's a chance that this is going to go forward in a way that it hasn't, even just as recently as last year, John.
Okay, well that's good to hear. Now, as you pointed out, they're dueling bills. So she's Elizabeth Warren is moving forward in the Senate, Representative Jayapal in the House. What are the major differences between the two bills?
Well, they haven't been introduced yet, so we don't have the actual text, but you can pretty much rest assured that they're going to be almost identical, if not flat out identical, and that they would be on parallel tracks, almost in a similar way to what we're discussing right now with HR 1 and Senate Bill 1, the big overarching omnibus ethics and voting rights and campaign money bills that are being debated in the Senate in earnest right now and has been passed in the House. So look for it to also go kind of on that parallel track in a way that might not be quite as high profile as what we're dealing with HR 1 and Senate Bill 1, but something too that has really kind of created its own heat, in part because of the members of Congress that you mentioned who've run into trouble with stocks, and also some recent examples. Democrat Tom Malinowski, for example, we've done a lot of reporting on him about how he failed for 2 years, for example, to report any of his stock trades, which is actually in violation, or would appear to be in violation of that Stock Act that, although watered down, still mandates that members of Congress must publicly disclose any stock trades that they make, even if they still can go ahead and do them.
Yeah, you were referencing to the trouble last year with Loeffler and Perdue and a few others as well. They didn't get any legal trouble or ethics trouble, like formal ethics trouble, ethically, whether it's a problem is a different consideration. But I'm curious, coming out of that, do we know anything about what regular voters think about this? Like, my perception is that it seems to have hurt those two in their reelection bids. But do we have any actual data about whether voters want this practice to be banned?
Anecdotally, I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of voters, both Democrats and Republicans, who say, wait, this is legal? This can happen? You have to explain, yes, in fact, this is legal, and they wonder why. And then you go through all the legal aspects of it and legislation that has not been passed that would have addressed this. I think what really gets them in particular is the notion that you have lawmakers who are investing in companies, and it might be ExxonMobil, it might be Facebook, any of the companies that oftentimes will come before Congress to testify before congressional committees, that in many cases spend millions of dollars lobbying the federal government, and also in many cases too are working with the government and jockeying to try to win government contracts. There's a huge financial incentive for these companies to be working with or even fighting with government. Yet at the same time, the lawmakers, who are the ones who obviously are in charge of not only passing laws, but hearing all these companies out, have a personal financial interest in many of these cases in those very companies, and that publicly, or at least among members of the public, seems to rub them considerably the wrong way. I haven't seen any good polling on this, but if you're a pollster, and you're listening right now, that might be a good thing to ask people as to at this moment in time whether the needle has moved in favor of doing away with the ability for lawmakers to buy and sell individual stocks.
I would love to see that. I'm also curious what other politicians think. You know, in your piece about this, that Representative Ro Khanna spoke out in favor of the bill. I know that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez last year did multiple times.
Yep.
Have you had any indication, whether you can name them or not, about whether other politicians are in favor of this or not? I mean, it is obviously going to limit their ability to monetize their influence. So I would suspect some might have a problem with it, but what does it look like so far?
Sure. Well, on one end, I've talked to some lawmakers. Sometimes they don't want to attach their names to this, but who will make the case to say, look, we don't want to limit, even though we're public officials, limit what we can do in our personal lives. Yes, we are representing the body politic. Yes, we are representing our districts or people in our state, but at the same time, too, we should have the right to invest our money as we see fit. But yes, you have on the other side the argument with some lawmakers saying it should be banned. And the ones that you named, I would add Mark Pocan from Wisconsin to that list, and a few others who are very much, Ilhan Omar from Minnesota, who very much oppose this and think that lawmakers just simply, because of their position and because of the interactions, and also to the kind of not insider information by definition, but access to information that you or I or most members of the public would not be privy to, that they should not be trading stocks as a result of that. And I should also note too, John, that there are some lawmakers that simply, as it is right now, just opt out. They only invest in mutual funds or broadly traded funds. They're not going in and day trading. They don't have individual stocks. So there's that element to it. And finally, back to the other side, there are a couple of representatives who said, look, I want to trade individual stocks or have the right to do so, but I've either put my money in a blind trust. John Ossoff from Georgia, senator, has done this, and or they have a financial advisor who it's kind of unclear as to how much control the individual member of Congress has over that financial advisor. But they say, hey, my financial advisor, they're the ones who are making all the decisions, not me.
Sure, that is a convenient excuse.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.